Subject today, children of Noach. This is how to live according to biblical model of a righteous society. Truth is, this whole subject is pretty new to me as well. The first time I encountered this subject was 5 years ago. I acquired my first position as a rabbi in a small city called Halifax in Canada. But the surprise was that almost every other week, another person will knock on my door who is not Jewish in order to learn about the Tanakh, the Jewish Bible, and usually with the request for conversion, to do the Jewish Giyur. For the most part, it was people who were Christians and were a little disappointed from Christianity, so they came to learn about the source of their faith. Sometimes it was just people who were seeking for truth. So they came realizing Judaism is a very ancient faith. They came to learn about that. And they were looking for meaningfulness in their lives. They were interested in the purpose of life. People who asked to understand why are they in this world, and because of that also, how should they live their life according to a truth. So sometimes I would host groups of people who are interested to learn about Judaism. Whether it is university classes about religion, religious class, or is it Christian groups, Muslim groups, who want to learn about Judaism. And the opening question I would pose would always be the same. What is the first religion of the world? What is the first faith people practiced? And names like Adam and Eve, the very beginning. What did they do? We know they had connection with God. So what did they practice? Were they Jewish? Judaism starts thousands of years later, right? With the children of Jacob and tribes. If you look in the Tanakh, in the Jewish Bible, the Bnei Yisrael, sons of Israel, or the house of Jacob, Beit Yaakov, it's way after the creation of the world. But we do know that Adam and Eve practiced something. They had faith. They actually were very close to God. They were, raised by him. Yeah, they didn't need a mother to become what they are. As well as Noach and his sons. The second beginning of creation of humanity. What about Abraham, our forefather Abraham? Yes, he is the seed of Israel, but he himself, was he Jewish? Evidently not. So what did they practice? What was their religion? And so, not this one, but that one. We know they did practice something. Here's one of the plenty resources that I have found about what they did practice, which is what we call there are several names: the covenant of Noach, the Noachides, the path of the righteous. Some people call it the righteous among the nations. Here is one of the midrashim brought by Rambam, Maimonides. Okay. 6 commandments. Adam, the first man, was commanded, right? He talked to Hashem. He was commanded with the following 6 commandments: idolatry, blasphemy, murder, illicit sexual relations, thievery, and establishing system of justice. Even though all these have been received as a tradition from Moses, our teacher, like how do we know about that? We don't have any writings by Adam and Eve, but we do have the Torah. So this is what he refers to, the tradition from Moses, the Torah, the Jewish scriptures. And we can understand the rationale for them. Nevertheless, from the Torah, it was these that they were commanded. A 7th commandment was commanded only to Noach. Thereafter, it is not to eat an organ from a living creature. And I see the underline line here. These commandments were universally applicable until Abraham. With Abraham, circumcision was also commanded, and the prayer of Shacharit, this is the morning prayer. And with Moses, our teacher, the Torah was completed. This is Maimonides. So we see that there were many people Many people that we know, they're familiarized with their names, who practiced this covenant of Noach, the children of Noach. But if that is so, why most of us never heard about it, including me, never heard about it? Why, when I ask what was the first faith of the world, some say, young people the youngest will say Judaism, others will say Islam, which is 7th century. Some will say Christianity, some will be a little bit more knowledgeable, will say Buddhism or Hindu, which are more ancient. We would expect it will be practiced by the masses. How many of you heard about this, about the covenants of Noach, about Judaism for non-Jews? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, less than half. And you all came to this lecture, so interested in a topic. Why? Why isn't there any writings about it? Books? Why can't we find remainings? Why don't you see every third person who practices this faith here? And I believe the answer, very simple and sad answer, has to do with the teachers that should teach this faith. Namely, the nation of teacher. Like the verse said, Mamlechet Kohanim v'Goy Kadosh, a nation of teacher, of priests in Judaism, are the teachers as well. They did not do what they should have because they could not. Another really remarkable source that shows that not only that it was practiced, there were times that it was vastly practiced and known all over the world. I'm not talking about 5,000 years ago, but recently, 2,500 years ago, right? This is Maimonides in his laws of Beit Mikdash, and he speaks about Ben Noach, this is a Noachite, who wishes to perform another Torah commandment, merely is ordered, in order to receive a reward, is not prevented from doing so in the halachically correct way. Thus, if he brings the Olah offering, it's a burnt offering, he could bring Korban into the Beit Mikdash, the temple in Jerusalem. A non-Jew can bring an animal, and the Kohen will perform the whole service as he does for a Jewish person who brings his offering, his Korban. We accept it from him. It's truly remarkable to think about it. The temple was supposed to be welcoming all the people in the world, and not only this, it actually happened. We know that if you read the books of Flavius, a Jewish historian who became a Roman historian, there he writes that in the time, he recorded the time of the siege the Romans did over Jerusalem, just before the destruction of the temple. And he describes what happened, the daily life. And there, between the lines, but if you think about it, he writes that every day the Romans will bring an animal, and the Jews will throw a rope down from the wall to pick it up in order to have the sacrifice, the offering, the daily sacrifice. It's not the Olah, but a different one, Olah Korban Tamid, it's called, the eternal Korban. You see that the other nation participated in what's going on in the Beit Mikdash. And this is times of war, right? The Romans are besieging the Jews inside the walls of Jerusalem. They wanted to basically destroy them, and they still sending them every day an animal to be sacrificed, to be offered on the altar in the Beit Mikdash, in the temple, in time of war, to show you that these things were practiced, vastly practiced at that time. And again, this is why I believe is the cause, the reason why it was deserted. When nobody almost even heard about this. Why, when they came to learn about this subject 5 years ago, because there was demand, people asked for me to teach them about how to behave, how to live according to the Tanakh. We're non-Jews. For Jews it's very simple. There are plenty of books. But for non-Jews, I could not find a paper here, a paper there, few lines in the Talmud. But real resources I could not find. And this is the reason. The reason is two explosions, two destruction of two temples. It is to be expelled from your country. It is to suffer from persecution, forced to Christianity. It was the terrible Holocaust, the wandering Jew, being thrown from one place to another. Now think about it. When you need to survive, both physically and spiritually, how can you then teach? When you need to, it's not even for food and shelter. It's to make sure nobody kills you in the streets. Nobody throws you again from your house. When you need to survive for the basic of the basics, for life, how can you teach? And in other times, when it was a little better times, you need to survive from assimilating, from becoming not who you are. So you're always in the stages of survival, or physically or spiritually. How can you teach what you're supposed to when you struggle to suffer your own survival? Not only that, who's going to listen to the teacher that is, it's less than an animal in the streets? Are you going to teach me? A teacher comes to a class, he got a dressing code. He needs to have a certain level of language. He needs to be respectful, right? When we complain to our teachers in the phone, we shout at them, we curse them, everything. We go to the principal, go there. But when the kids are present, dear teacher, but you said this and that, maybe we respect them, because he cannot teach my son or my daughter if he doesn't respect him. So in this condition, this status, we could not be teachers. We could not perform what we needed to be doing. And yet we know there is a change. There is a change, as I said. We'll see later in the last slide here. There's a big movement of over 30,000 people who are asking to join this respectful group called the Noachites. What is it? And I believe mainly two things. It has to do with prophecies, it has to do with spirituality, but I believe what we can understand in our world, main two things have changed dramatically. First one is the establishment of the state of Israel. For some faiths, this is a big hit. It's the destruction of their own faith, because they're based on the destruction of the Jewish people. So when again the Jews are coming back to their homeland, something here is wrong. Many Christians who came to my office are saying that there is an error in our faith now, because what we're being taught in the church, God chose the Jewish people to be the teacher of the world, Mamlechet Kohanim, the great Kadosh, to be the leaders, but then he deserted them and continued with all those who follow Jesus. So the Jews are destined to be or destroyed, or to be completely assimilated, or to wander all over the world as nobody, a wandering Jew, all their lives. So 1948, something bad happened to us. We couldn't understand that. And now we're trying to understand what is going on. And then in 1967, with the Six-Day War, when it became a fact in the world history that the Jews are there in Israel to stay, then it's sealed. And it's amazing. We'll see that the statistics show that those who are interested in conversion in the Noachite covenant are from 67, a little bit after, from the 1970 until today. This is when the graphs are going up and up and up. There's more and more interest in Judaism and Jewish resources and the source of all that, alongside, and not less important, with a complete freedom of rights of Jews all over the world, at least the modern world, most of the world. This is something that did not happen in the past 2,000 years. Definitely not the two things at the same time. Both Israel and the state of a Jewish people in the world. If you walk in Sweden today, in Stockholm, you're like any other ordinary person. You can acquire any position that you want. These two things show us about a dramatic change in the world that has been spoken about in the very early prophecies. I'm not going to the books of the prophets, but at the end of the Torah. Sefer Dvarim, the last book of the 5 books of Moses, is actually the speech that Moses had before he left the Jews, before they entered the land of Israel. And Adonai will scatter you among all the nations. Right? And they're now standing few miles before entering the land of Israel for the first time. They are being saved from Egypt, received the Torah in Mount Sinai. They wandered in the desert for 40 years. It is now the second generation. They're going to enter the land of honey and milk. And he's talking with them about, you're going to be scattered among the nations. You're going to be expelled. They didn't even enter yet. Hashem will scatter you among all the nations, from one end of the earth to the other. We have seen that. And there you will serve other deities unknown to you or to your forefathers, etc., etc. And among those nations, you will not become, nor will your foot find rest. All this happened. Why is it? Why are we happy when we see that? Because now we can speak about this in past tense. We can see also the prophecies of the future in white here. This is Zechariah. So said Adonai, I will return to Zion, and I will dwell in the midst of Yerushalayim. Happened? Happened. How many years ago? 7 years ago. And I will dwell in the midst of Yerushalayim, etc. Old men and women shall yet sit in the streets of Jerusalem. Streets of the city shall be filled with boys and girls playing in its streets. I will save my people from the land of the east and from the land of the west. Return of the exiles from over 100 countries. The Israelites are returning to Zion. It's remarkable. I am the producer of such return to Zion. My father is from Tunisia. My mother is from Canada, from Hungary. My wife is from Yemen. All are coming in a few years. All returning to Zion. Jerusalem again is becoming a place that people need to visit, because it's like, if you didn't visit Yerushalayim, or Tel Aviv, but if you didn't visit Yerushalayim, you miss a major part of the world. Like it's Paris, London, Jerusalem. I will finish here with some interesting information. This was introduction to this huge topic, and I'll leave some room for questions and answer, because I know this is a very new phenomenon for most people. Very interesting to find in the Resolution 104 of the Congress, the American Congress. I found this quotation. This is from 1991, right? 1991. This is a quote there. Public recognition in the United States. Whereas Congress recognizes a historical tradition of ethical values and principles which are the basis of civilized society and upon which our great nation was founded. Whereas these ethical values and principles have been the bedrock of society from the dawn of civilization, when they were known as the 7 Noahide laws. Things are happening. This is again coming back.
Didn't you say there were 6 laws?
There were 6. Okay, there 6 were given to the Adam and Eve, and then when came Noah, this guy there, he got also the 7th, which is not to eat an organ from a living creature. So until Noah, the world was vegetarian. They're not allowed to eat animals. For the first time, they were, but this is a different topic for vegetarian for next year maybe. But the first time human beings were allowed to eat animals was with the, again, restart of humanity with Noah. And with this allowing to eat animals came also the prohibition not to eat an organ from a living creature. Okay? But over 30,000 people are recognizing themselves, their faith. What is your faith? I am a Noahide. So they went in front of the Beit Din, of 3 religious judges, and they accepted among themselves the biblical values, the 7 laws, which is actually 37 in Talmud, and as well as the biblical values and behavior according to the Tanakh, the Jewish Bible. Recently, there was even a Siddur, a book of prayer that launched, and now you can buy it, I think, in Amazon, get it on free, on the web by Uri Shalki. This is actually why I wrote my book, The Covenant of Noah, because what happened is many people are coming, and more are coming to rabbis all over the world and asking, we want to convert you usually. But then you're being told you don't need to. If you want to be a righteous person, you want to follow God, to follow Hashem, you don't need all this hundreds of thousands of flaws. Don't ruin your life with all this prohibitions and things you have to do. Stick with this 37. Take the Tanakh or the values, live according to that, and you're, as a Talmudic expression, the status of a person, of a Noachide, who accept all this, is equal to one of the Kohen Gadol, the great priests in Jerusalem. So, okay, you say, yeah, we want that. Where do we start? Give us something to learn from. I collected lots of the resources I can find from the Talmud, from the Mishnah, from the Rambam, all over, so people can start with something. This is something great that is starting or restarting now in the world. That should be like one of the biggest topics now all over the world.
Yes, every service we end, I don't think it's exact words, but we say on that day the Lord should be king over the whole world and his name one. Like,
yes.
So basically that everyone should recognize
God, the one God.
Yeah, exactly. So does that mean that everyone should follow this?
Absolutely. That's it, period.
So
yes. This is what they required.
So,
there is
so
no requirement for someone who is non-Jew to become a Jew. On the contrary, we want this Swede to be a good Swede, not just a Swede, but a good Swede, which means living according to Tanakh with his culture.
So this is what we mean when we say those.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Acceptance of Hashem as one God, and living your life, your culture, your traditions, according to the proper way of living, or in other words, Judaism for non-Jews. Yes.
You mentioned that there was like 37 in Talmud. Can you
Yes.
talk a little bit more?
Okay, like everything.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on your opinion of conversion? If you say, well, why would anyone eat? This is what I heard from your speech. Why would anyone convert if you can also just live according to the covenant of Noah, and then you're just as good as.
So the question, if I can,
Just
I'll
how
repeat.
do
So
you approach
if they
conversion?
can do that, and as the Talmud say, you can be rewarded as the Kohen Gadol, the high priest in Jerusalem. Why would someone come to convert? That's the question.
Yeah, that's the question.
Because they don't know about
how
it.
do you
They don't ask for it usually because they don't know it exists, or they don't know how good it is. You don't understand it. Like this is what you were born a good non-Jewish Swede because you're supposed to be a good non-Jewish Swede. Now the good is here because we've reached a level that the prophecies are being fulfilled. It is definitely some sort of messianic age of something of Hashem is again speaking to the world through the Jewish people, and now we're in good shape, in good condition. We can actually teach both in Israel or outside of Israel. In Israel because Israel is strong, is good. Outside of Israel because we're being normally treated as equal in the street. So now for the first time after 2 millennia, we can actually teach what we are supposed to teach to fill our purpose. It's being fulfilled.
It's being fulfilled. Okay, because my next question would be then what for you is the development that comes after? What's your idea of history? You say that the prophecy has been fulfilled, then what comes afterwards? Is it now then just the spread of the Noahide Convention over the entire human society, and then that's the end of history? Or just as I have a historian framework as well, so I'm
Very
very
good.
interested in your conception of that.
So the question is, if we're now in time of redemption, what is the end point? What is the goal? So, what is going to happen, I do not know. I myself not a prophet. But what is supposed to, to be enhanced, to happen more, is acceptance of the world, of the one God and Creator, acceptance His ways of living, right? Living according to biblical values, and closeness to Hashem, which is what we as human beings are supposed to do. And with that, the whole world is being changed. There is this Jewish expression in the Alenu Shabbat, the final segment of most of the tefillot, Letaken ulam b'malchut Shaddai, to perfect the world under the sovereignty of Hashem. Tikkun ulam, in short, we say in America, right? So this is what it is. that humanity will be closer to Hashem. Therefore, human behavior will be better. And we see it in many fields. It is coming to fruition. Slavery in the world, almost you can find it. There's a Jewish value to be enhanced. Equality of between people, gender, color, age. This is something that hasn't been the same. Like it is a Jewish value that grew up. This is the very beginning of Bereshit, right? B'tzelmo v'dmuto, in the likeness and the image of God, people are created. What is that? What does that mean? It means equality. The world is advancing with all these Jewish values. We see that they're coming to fruition. I believe this is why people are so interested now in coming and learning about Judaism, because they see, wow, the Torah, the Tanakh speaks in reality.
Yes, I have a question. I am a teacher in religion and history in the ordinary school system in Sweden, and I guess, according to your talk, that you implore us teachers in religion when we teach about Judaism, for example, that we talk about this Noachai, the covenant. When we have talked about the Jewish law, and then we can say yes, and if you are curious and want to live like a good as a good person according to Judaism, but don't want to convert, you can follow these 37 commandments.
Yes, absolutely. That's again, you were born a Swede to be a Swede.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. You just need to be a good one, according to the Tanakh.
Yeah, I was thinking being Jewish without being particularly religious. Not having the hassle of conversion, but not following everything in Judaism. How should I relate to the covenant of Noah as a baseline compared to keeping all the mitzvot or so? I mean, what is my Jewish obligation? You see my
Yes.
question? Yeah.
Yes.
What's the baseline? Of course, you always want to be better, but I choose not to follow all the rules in Judaism.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, you see, I don't know
Yes,
how to
yes.
put the question, but
So the question is, he was born Jewish,
Hmm?
and let's say there is a practicing Noachide, a practicing Jew. Where should I be in between? If I choose not to be
Since
complete
I'm
observant.
not, just the ordinary Swedish sort of non-convert.
First of all, Judaism is not a zero-sum game. It's not or everything or nothing. Okay? The more the better. Okay? In other words, no one's perfect. The Noachide laws are very basic. Not to kill, not to steal, not to eat an organ from a living creature, to have a system of justice, not to have bad sexual behavior. What else? Two more. Idolatry and blasphemy. Very good. Very basic. That's the first one. Very basic. So it's not a big deal that you practice that. I might disappoint you that you practice way more Jewish laws than you think. Okay? Probably you do all the 10 Commandments. That's already simple.
Probably,
Yeah. When was the last time you murdered someone?
It hasn't happened yet.
Okay, stole. Or most of the things. When you talk about observing Jew, you probably talk about the big three: Shabbat, Kashrut. Shabbat is the 7th day of rest. Kashrut is the food, the kosher food, the Jewish
No, I mean,
food.
and what do I
pre-
myself? I mean, I celebrate Shabbat, but I don't keep all the Shabbat.
See, you do a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about? You already do a lot. And this is why we're born here to improve. You have your own path. I have my own path. And a non-Jew has got his own path. Okay? How Jewish can a Noachide be? How Jewish can a Noachide be? Oh, okay.
Like, he's allowed to follow many Jewish traditions and laws, I guess, but some are no-nos, I guess.
Okay.
Would he wear kippah? Would he go to synagogue?
Very good. So, the question is, I want to be close to God, to Hashem. 7 laws, piece of cake. I want more, right? You love your wife. It's not enough just that you marry her. You need to tell her every morning to make her a cup of coffee, tell her I love you, send her flowers, and her birthday. I messed up this year, and that's painful. You need to do more. So when you love, you want to be close to Hashem, you want to do more and more and more. That makes sense. So can a Noachide do more than that? Keep Shabbat, keep Kashrut, do more and more and more stuff, go with Kippah, Tzitzit, and so on and so forth. The answer to that is that after the basic rules, of the basic laws, then he can add one at a time. It's like a supermarket. Okay? You go, there's laws here. Shabbos, you have kosher, you have tzedakah, charity, you have chesed, visit the sick, respect the elderly, respect your parents, and so on and so forth. You can take from the shelves. My character, according to his own character, he is a very compassionate person. You can obligate yourself to go once a week to the hotel, to the house. I showed you how much I slept last night. Usually, we will start want to adding. We will recommend to do with tzedakah. That's the beginning, charity. Okay, because some of the from the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, if you're familiar with the Tanakh a little bit, Sodom and Gomorrah, one of the reasons they were destroyed because they completely were non-compassionate, did not do any tzedakah, and this is the basic of society, helping out others who are at need. Not allowed to create a new religion. I am doing it as a Noachide who accepts one of the Jewish or one of the biblical values upon myself, but not to start a new religion. That's the basic rule. Otherwise, it's pretty much everything you take. You would start with the ones that are between rational laws. You will not start with kosher. You will not start with Shabbat. You will start something that you can logicalize with, right? Respect your parents, with being compassionate, with tzedakah, with respect to elderly, because there's a lot of demand nowadays. There's over, I don't know how many. There are many communities of Noachad nowadays, and they send requests. Please write us a prayer book, a siddur. So that's why called Brit Olam. Siddur. Write Brit Olam prayer book, and you can download it for free on some few websites.
What's their status in Israel, like in terms of law?